Hi everyone, it's William. It's a beautiful rainy evening about 8:30 or 20:30 today up at Schatzalp. I'm on the balcony for room 109, right below, well, 2 stories below Dmitri's balcony 309. And I actually love this weather. You can't see the rain. I'm sure you can hear it. This maybe isn't a good idea because of the fact that the rain, at least for me, is loud. Hopefully it's not a problem. Anyway, as I never tire of saying, I am a native Pacific Northwesterner, and I always feel invigorated by the rain. I actually get sort of enervated even watching movies about deserts, even with all the natural beauty in deserts. So I'm happy today that it's raining, and I wanted to be out here, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as well. So we are starting today with a letter that Dmitri wrote to Maria on October the 27th, 1939 from Schatzalp. It's not the... So he wrote 2 letters to her before this one. And so we've done one of those, and I'd forgotten about the second one. And I think I don't have... I'll look on some of the sticks I brought, but I don't think I have it with me here, so I think we're going to have to skip that one until I get back to the U.S. Anyway, this is a letter very, very different in tone, as I mentioned in the last video, very different subject matter to begin with. Dmitri does talk about his health a little later on, very different mood. And I have not edited anything out of this first part of the letter. There is some sensitive stuff in this letter, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, our recap for the last video from the last 10th installment of the letter of 23rd September 1939. Well, as you know, if you watched the videos, even one of them, it was a very emotional letter. Exceptionally emotional letter, and upbeat and full of references to mysticism and that sort of thing. And it basically described Dmitri's arrival in Davos right at the beginning of the Second World War, and his first 3 weeks at Schatzalp, his treatment plan, and we got sort of a timeline of what had been going on with his health before he came to Schatzalp. Our cast for today, well, the most important person by far in the letter today is Polly, Prince Paul Ilyinsky, Dmitri's only child. And another person is Konstantin Grunwald, whom you may remember, hopefully, because I don't want to say a lot about him, a friend of Maria's and of Dmitri's, but someone who kind of annoyed Dmitri and was kind of a little bit keeping an eye on him for Maria. I don't know if she asked him to do that or if he just took that upon himself. From a distance, he wasn't at Schatzalp, he wasn't in Davos. And then the Moore boys who were Paul's cousins. They were the sons of one of Audrey's sisters, and I haven't done any research on them at all, so sorry about that. And then finally, the man that Audrey married, I believe in March 1939, Prince Dmitri Georgiadze. He's also mentioned, though not by name. And yeah, so let's take a look. Here we go. October the 27th, 1939, Schatzalp. Thanks, dear, ever so much for your long and most interesting letter. The last day is October the 3rd, and it starts on The last day is October the 3rd, and it starts on September the 24th. It arrived by American post, registered with American stamps. All that is described as you write on October the 3rd, the last day of your notes, all that is described as you write on October the 3rd, the last day of your notes, that the first part of your diary you send with a friend to France to be posted there. Well, if it is so, I did not receive the first part. First part is in quotes. By some mystery, on the envelope of your letter in very small writing, Mr. Konstantin Grunwald's name is inscribed. Just his name, nothing else, exclamation point. I do hope you got my 2 letters, though now when I come to think of it, both are in Russian, but I don't think it matters, as I think they go via Italy. Some parts of your notes make one's heart bleed, where you so vividly describe your awful work and terrible life, exclamation point. Some parts of your diary made me laugh a lot, where you describe the man, in quotes, falling out of bed with a musical thump, end quotes. Please go on writing. It's most interesting, exclamation point. But some parts are so sad. You poor thing, exclamation point. You end your long letters asking me to consider coming over to America after the first term of my cure is over, exclamation point. Also adding that it would be better for Polly, exclamation point. Dearest, it's a very, very complicated question, exclamation point. Let us start by me. Okay, I have to stop here. Sorry to interrupt. This was all written in English. So anything that sounds funny, it's not because of the translation. Okay, we'll talk about that on the other side. Let us start by me. We don't know how long this war will go on. Maybe your idea for the new play will be the right one. I have the feeling that if I or Polly, especially Polly, go to America, it will be for a very, very long time. For Polly, perhaps nearly for always, exclamation point. Why? Because in 4 years' time, he will be 16, and then about ripe to join any university. If during the war period, Polly goes to America, let us say right now, there will be no reason for him ever to come back during the war. I may always come back, but there will be no reason for him ever to come back during the war. That means that he will have to go to an American small boys' school, and frankly, that idea just disgusts me. I cannot forget those horrible Moore boys, horrible is underlined, coming home from school 4 years ago, full of laughing at then very small Polly, and saying that they would like to know why his father is a Grand Duke. Why has his mother and himself an other name? She is not good enough to be a Grand Duchess, etc., exclamation point. And if that sort of thing went on when Polly was 5, can you imagine what it will be like now when he is much older with a surprising amount of ideas in his head? He, Ilinsky, me, well, you know, and his mother with a new, and for children, a most funny name, impossible to spell and very hard to pronounce, double exclamation point. When you say that he will perhaps have the feeling of being left all by himself during the war, I can't very much think that is quite so. And I have to stop there because even though Dmitri goes right along with this topic, I just can't fit any more in. Okay, so lots to talk about here. Let's begin by why is it written to English? Well, he says that himself because he believes that a letter written from Switzerland to the United States at this time in October 1939, if it's in Russian, is not going to reach its destination, that it's going to be waylaid by the censors. I don't know if he was right about that or not, but he wasn't going to take the chance. So that's why it's written in English. And okay, yeah, we learned something interesting about the complexity of the postal system at that time. Everything was topsy-turvy. Maria's life. You know, I just don't know anything about Maria's life at this time, but it doesn't sound like she's having a good time, does it? You know, here's Dmitri. He's truly desperately ill and confined to bed in a sanatorium, but he's calling her poor thing, and talking about her terrible life and her awful work. And what is going on with that? If any of you know, please let me know. I know at some point she migrated south to Argentina, but at this time, I believe she's still in New York City. And it's interesting that she is contemplating writing a play about the war situation. You know, I don't know how much help she had with her memoirs, with the actual writing. But it seems to me like the writing is quite good, especially for a non-native speaker, if indeed she wrote it in English. So, it's not everybody, even if they're a good writer, is cut out to be a playwright, but it's too bad that the play never, if she actually wrote it, that it's never come to light. So why is Konstantin Grunwald's name on the envelope? Well, I'm as baffled as Dmitri about that, but it sounds like Mr. Grunwald is up to his old tricks, his interfering and sort of insinuating himself into Dmitri's life by way of a kind of espionage. Okay. You poor thing about Maria. What is up with that? So then we turn to the most important situation. I think even more than what was going on with him health-wise, this was the thing that Dmitri was most concerned about, was the situation of his son, because he adored his son. I think it's safe to say that he loved his son more than any other people in the course of any other person in the course of his entire life. His son was the sun and the moon to him. The thought of losing his son, even in the sense of just temporarily being separated from him by the Atlantic Ocean, was just, horrifying to him. So he's really trying to... Maria's on Audrey's side in this instance, and I think most of us would be, that Polly he needs to be in a safe place. And Switzerland is not necessarily a safe place. The Swiss were terrified of invasion. As Dmitri told us in the previous letter, the Swiss army had been mobilized. There were no men left in town of a certain age. And so bringing Polly to Switzerland, well, we know it would have been fine, but they didn't know that back then. And so it's not surprising that Maria is taking Audrey's side on this one. So Dmitri starts raising objections to what he would be exposed to if he were returned to America. And we'll hear more and more of that. He really doesn't want that. He really doesn't want his son to be in America. He's disgusted at the idea of him going to school in America, to a small boys' school, as he so quaintly puts it, and being around his cousins who make fun of him. And, Paul told me that he was so happy when he got to America, that he was so happy to be no longer in England. But we'll talk about that later. And, Dmitri he was in denial about the whole situation, because he just couldn't, at that time, he just couldn't cope with the idea of having his son go away to America. Dmitri is just determined that even if he's able to go to America, he is not going to live in America. So he tells us he can always come back, and he will come back. He'll make that very clear in this letter, as both Maria and Audrey continue to urge him to come to America. But he's just not going to live in America. And so, of course, Paul told me that his father wanted him to, when he reached the right age, to go to what is it? Sandhurst, is that it? The big military academy in Great Britain. And, Dmitri is thinking, well, he's 12 now. When he's 16, he'll be ready for university. Did people go to university at the age of 16 back then? I mean, some people do now, but not many. It's quite an exception. So Dmitri maybe didn't know that in the U.S. usually it's, 18. Yeah. I'm rambling as usual. But he's worried that if the war goes on, as indeed it will, then Polly will not, he won't come back. He won't come back to Europe. So anyway, yes, I will stop. what do we have next time? I've kind of given the whole thing away, but no. So what we have next time is just more very fervent discussion of Polly's situation. So we're learning lots of interesting things, not just about Paul, but about his parents and his aunt, and yeah, what life was like during this very complicated period in history. All right, come back. Don't be afraid of all my rambling. Do come back, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.